Good morning. How y'all doing out there? How y'all feeling? I am Omi Bell, and I'm the creator of 3B Society. Also, you may know me as the CEO of Black Girl Ventures. You may know me as, you may have met me in a mom community somewhere. You may know me as a poet. Any of those things could be true, and they all would be correct. I'm also a breathwork practitioner, and I created 3B Society because we need to regulate our nervous systems. It's crazy right now. The doctors are seeing war anxiety pop up in people a lot more as the news takes hold. And when I'm doing if you follow me on any channels and you see me doing the what I call the Only Brief, there's been a consistent report around the news, right? As they're saying that research shows that even short periods of news consumption, as little as 14 minutes, can spike symptoms of anxiety and depression, especially when people feel powerless to improve the situation. More than half of Americans get their news through social media. Well, algorithms are designed to maximize engagement, making it physically difficult to disconnect. So it's the message here though is it's not about being sensitive. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you too sensitive. Oh, you can't take all this news. Oh, you can't. And I think that's like something that we like sort of minimize emotions into is we minimize it into like, you can't take it. You supposed to be able to, nobody's supposed to be able to take this level of news all at one time in the same place on one small device. Like, I'm sorry, there was nowhere written in the story of evolution that this would be the case. So if you're out there making sure you don't, it's not about people want to tap in and know what's happening in the news, as you should, because it's getting really crazy. And I gotta actually go and do some Google searching to figure out what the like demand on Iran what happened last night, because it was like Trump was giving them as of like 8 p.m. to make a decision. And so um if you are out there consuming news, which I'm guessing we all are in some way, try taking maybe have short moments in the morning where you consume like top line news, and then in the afternoon, same thing. You can tap in, but then tap out. And what's happening is with the algorithms, people are not able to fully tap out. And so it's impacting people's nervous systems and lots of other things too. You get to the gas pump, you see the prices, the education, like there could be a number of things around you that are impacting your nervous system. And so it's important that you take time to breathe. Your breath is a tool that you always have with you. And you can, and you can exercise, and exercise and breath will help you get regulated. One of the reasons why, so overall, 3B Society is a community for people, for the ambitious and the curious. People juggling more than most, tired of feeling tired, and done buying into hustle culture as the answer. So my motivation behind starting this too is I was always like, team no sleep, and then I realized like that ain't that's not it. That's not what we're looking to do. My guest for today, I'm excited to bring them on today. So the three pillars of 3B is body, business, and belonging. Today we have an expert on belonging that's coming to talk to us, and we have a woman in business and taking business in a different way. So she is my guest later in the show is Alice Hughes. She's a career and business astrologer. So we're going to hear from her and the idea of like predicting consumer insights using astrology. I'm also, our guest that I'm about to bring up now, I'm excited to talk to her, Dr. Shalai Williams. As a passionate entrepreneur combining expertise, intention, and credibility, she provides high-touch, curated therapeutic and coaching services to Black women, helping them achieve in four major dimensions of their lives: eternal, emotional, entrepreneurial, and external. I love one of the things I love is the eternal part. That's interesting. So I got to get some. I want to get some information from her on what that looks like. So coming to the stage, everybody, get ready for Dr. Shalai Williams. Good morning. How you feeling? Can you hear me?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm
Yes.
doing good. Uh-oh, I think there may be a little bit of a delay.
There
Yeah, I
might
think it's a
be. It's
little
a
bit of
little
a delay.
glitch on my end, so I apologize for that.
No, no worries. And actually, StreamYard glitches sometime, and then we never know why and what happened. so, so do you want to try going out and coming back in, or you think it's just gonna hold the whole time?
I don't know. Whatever you suggest.
Let's try it. Let's try going out and coming back in and see how real time we can get it. Yeah, let's see. So then, yeah, just come. We can come right back. We'll see you in a second.
Okay.
So, um, while I let her work on that, I was thinking this morning about the level of connectedness that we have to technology. And that somehow, even in having connectedness to technology, is not creating a connectedness to each other. Even we can connect to each other through technology. So, like, I know there's a even looking at like social media all the time. There is an affinity that I think people grow for the people that they're following and they're watching that's different from when we used to watch them on TV. However, if we think about our some of us for our parents, they used to grow an affinity for the people on the stories, the soaps, the soap operas. They used to grow an affinity for those folks and become like fans. And then I think we did the same thing when it came to different TV shows. And I wonder what is that building in us from a belonging and connectivity standpoint, right? And I feel like in business, when we see people become influencers or we see people sort of connect to them, there's also a sort of like pride, and there's also a sort of like, I don't know, what's the right word? A sort of we take them on and we take on the expectations that they're supposed to have. Like we expect them to be away. And for average people, in a way that this was only reserved for like celebrities at one point. Right. So the way that people used to look at people were only like celebrities because they were on TV. People would look at them and go like, oh no, like this person would never do that, even though we don't know them. Or oh no, this person would it's this or that, and we don't know them. The difference now is that we're watching people on social media, and these are average, everyday people who then come to more notoriety and then are expected to understand what it means to operate like celebrities. And then they don't always, right? Or they didn't realize that they needed to start operating like celebrities. And so there's something missed on connectivity here. And this is why I want to bring up my guest, Dr. Shalai Williams, because I want to talk about belonging and like what is the state of belonging when we're in a loneliness epidemic right now and when we are facing more information than we've ever been able to have on a regular basis. How do you even gather a sense of belonging? So let's bring her back
Mhm.
up. Okay. Oh yeah, there we go. There we go. We're doing it now. Yeah. So I'm so glad to have you on. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
um and you're a therapist and a coach and an author, and you seem to have your own unique way of serving. So I'm so curious about how you go about your practice, because I was looking at your website. You're very vibrant. I love it. And then I was looking at your
Thank
bio and just kind of like, reading around about you, and I'm like, you have an angle. Like you have a way that you're going about this. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you again for having me. I think just living life lets you see, as you were sharing in your intro, that it's not a one size fits all, right? And so often we're trying to fit into a particular type of box, and that box gets uncomfortable. And for me, as a Black woman living in America, it was lots of, uncomfortable moments. And so I was like, well, how can I show up not only for myself, but for people who look like me, for women who look like me, who are dealing with some of the same struggles and challenges. And so it's just like, how can I do that in a creative way that is actually meaningful and going to make a difference? And so I'm glad that shows up on my platform.
No, I absolutely think it does. I think it does for sure. And I'm gonna pop this question up because I think it's one. Has your box gotten uncomfortable? When you that right there just stuck out to me when you said it. people whose boxes have gotten uncomfortable. And it's a question to be asking ourselves. Has your box gotten uncomfortable? Like, what does that look like? Right? And what are we saying to each other in these moments? What are we seeking in these moments? And I think sometimes people, their box does get uncomfortable and they just get lost and they don't know what to do next. And so I would love to, okay, so let's talk through that. What are some of the signs? What are some of the signs that people should notice? That though I think sometimes like things are happening and you feel disoriented or you feel like not yourself and you don't know, you don't really have words for it right away. But I would let's start a signal up to the audience. Like, what are some of the signs that maybe your box has gotten uncomfortable?
Yeah, I think we use a lot of buzzwords, but aren't always clear about what that means or the underlying meanings, right? So we talk about burnout, we talk about the need for self-care, we talk about, depression and anxiety. But like underneath all of that, for some of us, can be I'm not in a position, I'm not in a place, I'm not in a space that is actually conductive, right? It's not conducive to what I'm trying to do. And so if you are tired, if you are not motivated to go to work, if you are stressed out at work, then maybe where you are is not where you're supposed to be. And so I think that is kind of the thing. We're doing these kind of like band-aid remedies, right? Oh, I'm gonna take a day off. I'm gonna do a mental health day. I'm gonna do a staycation. Well, maybe you need to like reposition yourself altogether, right? Maybe it is a new job. Maybe it is entrepreneurship. Maybe it is whatever. Fill in the blank, right? There's a lot of diversity in what one can do, but I think some of those like small things that we are seeing and experiencing and feeling, like really digging into that, like why is that happening to me?
I love that. Because I think, and this is why I'm glad that people like you exist. Because it is, people reach these points and they just don't know what to do. And it's like, hey, there's someone for you to talk to. And there's a way for you to think about that, right? And another question, you're bringing it today. I love it. Is where you are where you're supposed to be? And this is where we get into belonging there, and what that looks like is like, is where you are where you're supposed to be. And when I when I was a teacher, I used to say to the kids, like, why are you here? Like in my intro and in my beginning of like us getting to know each other essentially. And I wanted them to really think about this. And years later now, I'm like, it's funny. But while I was in front of them, I would go, why are you here? And immediately they would think about the physical environment, right? Like, I'm here because I had to go to school, because the teacher, I had one kid when I was teaching high school go, I took this class because of you. And I'm like, sir, first of all, calm down. But the is where you are where you're supposed to be is I believe, a mental state. It is an emotional state. It also is a physical state. It could literally be the state you're in, the geographic region, right? And so when someone is grappling with this question, which they may not even have had the language for yet, they just feel uncomfortable. They just feel disrupted. And they're asking themselves this question. When you think about belonging, what's the process, right? Like, what would you recommend, or what's your thoughts, or what have you seen the process that people are either yearning to go through? Because I see you have a couple, you have eternal, entrepreneurial, you have these pieces external. So what's the process that you're talking people through with your practice?
Yeah. I think we say things like, you have to hit rock bottom, or you have to be stuck, between a rock or a hard place. And sometimes it's not, that extreme. But I think sometimes we just recognize, as we were just saying, like, it's just uncomfortable. I'm just not happy. I feel like there's more. And it starts with that awareness, but then also often for a lot of us, it is completely destroying everything that we've ever thought about any of the things. And I know that sounds like a lot,
Mm.
but it's like so often what I will have seen in my own life and with my clients is so much of what we're doing has been dictated and predicated by other people's thoughts, opinions, history, family, society. And so it's like breaking all of that down to be like, who am I? Like we get super like existential, right? Like, who am I? What do I like? What do I want to do? What makes me happy? What am I passionate about? And so I think when we get down to those very basic level questions and build up from there, then we can start to figure out where we belong. Whether it is in the context of spirituality, whether it is in the context of your emotions. Like so many of us, we talk about emotional dysregulation. We were never taught how to feel our emotions. So how do I start at the bottom and build my way up? Entrepreneurial, I talk about that, and I'm like, people think, oh, well, I'm not an entrepreneur because I don't own my own business. Well, do you deal with money? Okay, well, then you're an entrepreneur because you have to manage your money well. But if you've never been taught that, how do you do that? External, your physical health. So often we are maybe great in one of those other three areas, but our physical health isn't well. So again, grandma and them might have liked ham hocks and fatback, but maybe that's not what you need to be eating. But you don't know that if you don't take the time to really think about why is it that I have done the things that I'm doing the things that I'm currently doing, and what do I want to do differently. I hope all that made sense.
No, no, absolutely does, because I think similar to what you're saying is the work that I'm doing with 3B is integration. How do we say, like, it's not
Mhm,
body over here, mental over here? It's like, no, actually, in one body can
yeah,
live entrepreneurial thinking, can live a focus on being grounded, spirituality. Like these things can live in one body. And I think that
mhm,
I feel like it's not enough time. We don't get that enough. We get this sort of like compartmentalization so that you can
mhm,
achieve, right? Like you don't feel good, go anyway. So what? You know what I mean? You got a little brain fog, whatever.
mhm,
Go, like do a thing. There's always like a pressing for achievement. It's funny
mhm,
because I'm thinking about this a lot lately with my kids. I have I have three children, and with my older kids, I had them young. So I was always so like, because I was pressed up against statistics, and because I
mhm,
was pressed up against statistics, and I don't want to be one of those. Oh, because you're a teen mom, your kids don't graduate from college. Oh, because you're a teen mom, your kids are not smart. Oh, you're a teen mom, so you drop out at whatever age. And I was like, nah, bump that. Like I'm
mhm,
none of that's gonna count for who I am and what I can achieve. And so I was pressing into them, I think, this achievement trauma in a sense, because it was for in me, in my
mhm.
mind, no one was going to tell me that I couldn't achieve. What type of generational things have you seen that are impacting? Because I want to talk about belonging from the standpoint of like DEIB, which became like a corporate thing to do. But I think we're starting with the individual and like
Mhm,
what is causing the disruption of feeling like you belong, sometimes even on the planet or in certain rooms or,
mhm,
with certain achievements. What have you seen generationally be passed down, and like how do people recognize like, oh no, that's not actually me. That's actually
mhm,
that's a generational thing that I'm adapting. I feel like that if you
yeah,
go on that journey, it's typically later in life. So if anybody's out there and younger, I want them to kind of wake up to, wait a minute,
mhm.
it's not that you were doing that thing. You just, your mama was doing that thing. Do
Right.
you have you worked with people with that generational trauma, and like how do you sort of come to this
Mhm.
recognizing that it's even there, and what can you do about it at that point?
Yeah, I love that you shared that about yourself, because I think that resonates with so many people, right? So absolutely talk to parents about this. One thing I like to call, I don't know if it's coined or not, but I like to call it the parental pendulum, right? So
Mm.
we have let's I'll just use my family as an example. My grandmother, according to my mom, was super strict, was very much about academics. College was absolute, those kind of things. So then when my mom had kids, she was like, I don't want to be like that. So she went way to the other end of the spectrum, and she was super liberal and super open, and you could do anything and all the things. And then, then you have me and I have my son, and I'm kind of like, well, let me find a happy medium in these very severe extremes that are happening. And I think that happens in lots of our families, right? On different things, whether it's education or substance use and abuse or actual abuse or whatever. It's like our families are just passing this stuff down. And like you said, unless someone takes the initiative to disrupt that cycle, it's just going to persist in one way or the other. So it's that same kind of thing of like waking up to, I have done this thing simply because this is what I have been taught, but is
Mm.
it right? Is it
Mm.
helpful? Is it useful? Should I continue to do it, as opposed to just kind
Mm.
of going through the motions of, this is what I've always known, or this is what my family taught me? And I'll just say this really, really quickly. I feel like in the Black community, we're like, if we go against Big Mama, like it is a cardinal sin. It's okay. It's okay to question what Big Mama taught you. It's okay to question what your daddy did. It's okay. It's okay. There's no disrespect in you questioning what you need to do for you and your family.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think that's right. And there is, but let's talk about that though a little bit, because I feel like there's things underneath the, if I question, do I have the permission to question? Do I
Mhm.
have the right to question? If I question, then what? I was reading this book. It's called Who Needs God Anyway? And
Mhm.
it is a rabbi who's writing this book. And in the book, he says, when you question what people believe, you question their ability to believe.
Mhm.
And so sometimes people don't want to ask certain questions, because then what does that mean for who they have become? What does that mean for what they are
Mhm.
continuing to engage in? It's the Jenga piece that could literally
Mhm.
cause a bunch of other things to unfold, and you have to visit that, right? How far do you see belief
Mhm.
systems playing into people's ability to move forward in life? And belief systems can be so strong. As a
Mhm.
therapist, your work is cut out for you around even trying to address them. um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I would be curious to see, like, the belief systems up against trying to change. Because somebody out there right now is like, I can kind of see where what I've been
Mhm.
believing ain't really working for me no more. Like, they can see that, but they're like, but what do I do about it? Because I've just been believing all this time this thing. So what should, like, if you can
Mhm.
kind of, if you're having a intuitive inclination that what I've been believing actually no longer works for me, but I'm so nervous about letting go of that belief, because then what happens? I'm any
Mhm.
advice you have for that kind of thought. You know what I mean? Like, I know that, like, you weren't
Yeah.
expecting these questions this morning, so like any advice you have would be wonderful, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I think if there is a person feeling um this kind of like, I feel like something should be different, but I don't really know how to do that or how I'll feel if it is different, is feel the feelings. I'm big on that, right? So feel the frustration, feel the confusion, feel the fear, feel all of that. And then ask yourself, is whatever's on the other side of those feelings, is that better than where I am now? And if the answer is yes,
Mm.
then just, we're going to push through. We're going to push through and then go through and question all of the things. So again, I'll use me. My family is all about education, and so I'm like with my son, I'm like, okay, what we doing? What college? What? Da, 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 da. And I realized when he was started making F's in school, which was mind blowing to me. I was like, you know what? Maybe college is not his story. I mean, it could be, but maybe it's not. And to like release that, right? Relinquish that control that I clearly don't have because I'm not going back to school for him. Relinquish the control of him to be like he is able to create his own destiny, whatever that is for him. And so for some of us, when we have built our identity on these other beliefs for so long, it can be like this Jenga puzzle. But it's okay because guess what? The beautiful thing about Jenga is you can rebuild, right? It's not like it falls
Mm.
down and disintegrates and there are no more pieces or any. You just try again. It's okay. So pull the piece out, let it disrupt, let it fall down, and then rebuild it in a way that works for you. You know, here's the other thing, because I'm a visual person, so I'm glad you said that. When we think about Jenga, the intent of Jenga is you're building a tower. But maybe when you rebuild, rebuild a platform. Maybe you rebuild a square. Maybe
Mm.
yours is a rectangle. Like it's okay. It's okay for it to look different than what you thought or what other people told you it was supposed to look like.
Mm. That's real. So you have a conference coming up. Do
I
you have a
do. I
okay, talk
do.
to us about it. Where is it? What is it about? What is it about? What do you hope people get out of it?
Okay. Yeah. So similar and seeing your platform and your the 3B Society, like you said, resonated with me because I am mindful of like we are these whole beings. And so often, as you said, we are compartmentalizing or we're doing really well in one area while the others are suffering. And so for women and Black women in particular, I'm like, almost all of us could raise our hand for that there is some area that we need to be made whole. And so the conference is a whole woman expo, and it is really highlighting those four areas. So eternal, emotional, entrepreneurial, and external. And it is an opportunity for women who are in the St. Louis or surrounding area to show up in person to hear from panelists in the area who are experts in those four areas. If you're not local, there actually also is a virtual option. So if you are somewhere in another state, another country, wherever, and you want to join virtually, you have that option as well. And you can register at drshalai.com/current events.
Okay. And so, okay, so we're going to be covering a bit of the integration of how
Mhm.
all parts of you work together. Tell us the title. Did you just mention the title of the conference?
Mhm. It's called a Whole Woman Expo.
A Whole Woman Expo. Okay, what city again?
St. Louis.
St.
St.
Louis,
Louis, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, give me the date.
Okay, it's Saturday. This like in however many
Oh,
days,
this
2 days,
coming
3 days.
Saturday.
This Saturday, April the 11th.
All right, so y'all got to go get tickets. DrShalaywilliams.com. DrShalaywilliams.com.
DrShalai.com.
DrShalay.com, sorry. And if you go to the
Yes.
3B Society, the 3B Society, keep that in mind, on Instagram. You can look under the flyer for today's show, and her Instagram handle is there as well. To make sure you go and check her out. Anything you want to leave the people with, any particular, philosophies or last thing you want to share, or something that we didn't cover that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, just the thing, just the I want to emphasize or re-emphasize that it is okay. It is okay to challenge those beliefs, those thoughts, those generational, we use the word curses, those generational concepts that we have internalized and have said is our identity when maybe it's not. So it's okay to challenge that. And I would like to if my few words have any significance, give permission for folks to do that, that it is okay to challenge those thoughts and beliefs.
I love that. Thank you so much for joining me, Dr. Shalai. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you know what? The one thing we didn't get into. Okay, sorry, y'all. Because I wanted to talk about the corporate belonging piece. I forgot about that part.
Mm,
Real quick, because I gotta let you
okay.
go. But it went from DEI. So I noticed that people started having DEIB, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was diversity, equity, inclusion. Then there was diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I'm curious though. This let's talk about the terms and the words. Like diversity, equity, inclusion does that not signal belonging? Or like did they need this extra pillar because they were doing all that, but somehow wasn't making people feel like they belong? Like what what how do
Mm-hmm.
you so do you have any like
That's
somebody
exactly.
do you have any like metaphors for how you look at these three things? Because I think they're like people right now, with the basically the burying of DEI. A lot of people are struggling too with
Mm-hmm.
realities around it. And but it's not that it's not necessary. And it's not that belonging is not necessary. So some people may be taking up the mantle in their smaller companies and going, I'm gonna be diverse, I'm gonna have equity, I'm gonna be inclusive. But then they're leaving out the belonging piece. How
Mm-hmm.
should people with companies, as they're building companies, be thinking about creating an environment of belonging?
It was such a good question. To your one point, yes, you have to add these things because some people don't know. Like to us, it's like intuitive, right? But for some people, they genuinely do not know how to welcome people in, right? To welcome them into the fold so that they do feel like they belong. And I think as people are creating companies or companies that currently exist or these kind of big box companies, is like understanding that the it is my belief that one of the best ways to help people belong is to talk to them and ask them questions. So it's
Mm.
not just necessarily setting up programs, it's not just necessarily giving lip service to it. It is, how do I come to you? How do I make you feel welcome? How do I, let you know that you actually belong in a way that is culturally sensitive and important to you, right? It's not just having watermelon at the company cookout, right? You know what I'm saying? It's not having, oh, we're gonna celebrate Cinco de Mayo, because that may or may not be significant to your employees, but it is involving them in the conversation and then taking what they say to heart and incorporating that. So yeah, that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because inclusion could easily become involved. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not just about, including me in the room, but also are you involving me
Right.
in the conversations, which brings on that belonging piece. Okay, thank you so much. I just want to make sure that I tap into that because I feel like I noticed that trend when I was as I've been working in
Mm-hmm.
BGV. I've been doing this 10 years now. So I noticed that
Oh
trend coming
wow.
about. I was like, oh, okay. Not only so DEI was first, then it was like, oh, then I saw DEIB, and I was like, oh, okay. More companies started adapting that. So love that. Thank you so much for coming and talking with me today and
Thank
sharing with the
you.
people.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate
Of
you. Have a good
course,
rest of your day.
anytime.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Wait, you were saying one more thing? Were you good? Okay, okay. You know how like you're about to, like hang up the phone and then the person's like, oh, and you be like, oh shoot, wait, what? Because I forgot it. I forgot to hear the thing, but she was just saying thank you. Speaking of thanks, thank y'all so much for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. I have been this is the 3B Society, and I have, if you just joined me, you have seen me do the 30-day show. You've seen me do the Omi show. The Omi show actually airs on every Sunday on Sirius XM channel 126, Urban View, where talking powers and becomes action. Make sure you are checking out the SiriusXM show, the Omi Show. My YouTube is also named at the Omi Show. So you can go check out the live streams. I go live there and I go live on LinkedIn. And there's a really intentional choice to go live on LinkedIn because LinkedIn is essentially this like professional environment. It's like the Facebook for professionals, right? So, but we all have all of these accounts. So you have everybody that's, even though you are here on LinkedIn, it is like professional content. You're also on Instagram, you're on Threads, you're on TikTok, you're on Instagram. Did I say Instagram? I did say Instagram. But maybe you're on Facebook. So you are one person being served essentially from different angles, different kinds of content. And being on LinkedIn is essentially differentiating some of what you're seeing. And I think that with that becomes, what do we share there? What do we share there? And like, do we, because I hear, it's mostly professional wins. Oh, this person got an award. Oh, this person got a new job. Oh, this person. And I think that there's some room, and not to merge these platforms into one, but there's some room to have these levels of conversations on platforms like LinkedIn, where professionals are also wondering about belonging. Professionals are also, like, I'm a firm believer that body is a missing element from the conversation around economic mobility, right? Economic mobility should include a concentration on body and nervous system management and regulation. Because right now it's sort of like, oh, well, after you get the job and get the money, then you can regulate your nervous system, then you can rest, then you can chill. Oh, well, after you have achieved so much, then you get the right to rest. And I'm like, no, actually, rest is a part of your performance. I believe that body should be a part of professional development. The corporations currently treat nervous system regulation or things around body as some like extra thing to do to appease everybody and have a great, activation with employees. And it's like, yeah, but you really need to think about it from a routine standpoint and understanding that this levels of nervous system regulation are part of great performance. Not if you perform well, you get awarded with some day, or if you perform well, you get awarded with some, oh, we'll have a company outing type of thing. It's like, no, if companies looked at that as being a part of performance the entire time, I believe we see different outcomes. And people get into spaces where like you seemingly got the money, you're seemingly making your way you seemingly got the job, but you hit a wall, you're burned out. Because the whole time nobody was considering body as a part of your economic mobility, your upward mobility, what that meant to get your next raise. What if now this would be interesting. What if in order to get your next raise, it wasn't just about your achievements, like, peer reviews or anything like that, or like, your annual review, or what if your annual review just included how many days off did you take in a positive way? How many wellness days did you take? How many did when they can't get as private to go like, what's your last doctor's appointment? But what are you doing to manage your nervous system? Because understanding that like nervous system regulation is going to make you a better leader, is going to make you more calm, and then asking people, hey, and not like, are you doing yoga? Because people might not have mobility for that, right? So it ain't like, oh, are you going to the gym? Like that, not that, because that signals a certain only able body kind of person that could do a certain thing in a certain way. And like, not that. Or people, so not have you been to the gym? And don't get me wrong, the gym is great, and the gym can be a part of helping people sort of regulate their nervous system. But the gym sometimes is it does different things for different people. But also knowing that your body does not have to be in constant movement for you to be regulate your nervous system. Like, that's not what that means. Like, your body that's not, you don't have to force that so that you can then say your nervous system is regulated. You don't. But if that does help you, because that's what you like to do, then okay. So what a performance improvement was like, what if it was like a staple of performance improvement? Is like, actually, I'm noticing that you have, I have family members that had, like, matter of fact, there was this woman when I was teaching, there was this woman who she had so much time off that she could have literally taken a whole year off, a whole school year off before retiring because that's how much time off she had. Because she just would never take time off. And sometimes people don't value it, but also sometimes people don't take time off because it means they would be lonely. And so I think it is, it could be like, how are you engaging in community? How are you engaging in ways that help enrich you outside of mental? Because I think like continuing education and like, did you go get a new certification? Did you go study a new thing? Like all of those things are sort of included in the way people think about performance improvement. But I'm talking about a new kind of way of thinking. I'm talking about a way of thinking that says body, business, and belonging all go together and they integrate in one. And when they do, you're gonna be a better version of yourself. And what does that look like? Right. So what I want to also bring you on these days, my next guest is coming up in about 19 minutes. But I want to, when I do the 3B Society podcast live, because that's what you're watching right now, the 3B Society podcast live stream. And if you're just joining me, let me run back my purpose here and why I'm starting the 3B Society. The 3B Society is a community for the ambitious and the curious. People juggling more than most, tired of feeling tired and done buying into hustle culture as the answer. And I'm saying that so openly because we were told to choose between ambition and rest, between success and the body, between building something and belonging somewhere. And I am saying, no. This compartmentalization is bringing us down as well. And that we need the space and we have the space to integrate. So people ask me like, how have you accomplished all the things you accomplished and you got 3 kids? And I'm like, because like when I think about time is all the time for me. And that's not to say don't have boundaries, but I'm just saying that like when I'm getting things done quickly, it's because like I'm looking at, okay, well the weekend wasn't some like, oh, we gotta you gotta not work because it's the weekend. And it's also not some like, oh well, this is the only moment I get to regulate my nervous system because it's the weekend. No. Excuse me. If I need to regulate my nervous system tonight, if I need to stop right now, in fact, in a minute, maybe I'll show y'all a tool, but if I need to stop right now and regulate my nervous system, we need to do that right now. Right? Like, so it's like knowing that if I need to first becoming aware that your nervous system is even being bothered. Are you irritated in moments that you're like, what? And don't get me wrong, there could be also different symptoms from different things in life. You could be hangry. You could be experiencing perimenopause, postmenopause. You could be experiencing all of that. So but I'm saying that nervous system regulation will help. Breathing techniques. So I have a breathwork app. It's not, you don't have to download it. It's a web app. Go to thebreathingbell.com. Thebreathingbell.com. It's a simple, easy flow to try out some of these things. But I'll show you one right now. So wherever you are, and maybe I'll add this to every time I do. Every time we do an interview, maybe I'll add a different technique. So before my next guest comes, will be my last guest for this show. For the show today, let's do some alternate nostril breathing. Okay, now alternate nostril breathing brings you immediate calm. It is one of the fastest. So you can do like, 7 deep breaths. You can do like 4-4-4 breathing, which over time I'll show you all of these. But alternate nostril breathing is one that I have found to be the quickest and bring you into a space of rest, a space of peace, not a space of rest, a space of calm, and a space of regulation. The thing I also like about alternate nostril breathing is when I show you it, I'm gonna look kind of crazy in me doing it. But I feel like if you were at a table with family and you got a little bit dysregulated because the family member has triggered you from something they said, or if you even had a meeting and something triggering has happened in a meeting, or you just find yourself getting really anxious in the meeting, here's what I also find you could do. You grab a piece of paper. I mean, not a piece of paper. Grab a piece of tissue, and you can do this alternate nostril breathing that I'm about to show you. And people will think you're blowing your nose. Okay. And you do it for a few minutes. Do it like 3 or 4 times. Put your napkin back down. You're calm. You're in it. You're with it. Okay. But you can also go to the bathroom, take a couple deep breaths, do this alternate nostril breathing I'm about to show you. You can do those. Now, so the finger placement. So when I'm teaching people, technically the technical way to do this is a finger placement is like this. So you're using your 2 fingers, or sometimes I've seen people do it where you're using your fingers here. So this is good finger placement, or this. But I'll be honest and say this is actually uncomfortable. So I've been showing people to do it this way. They say, the technical way to do it is with 2 fingers this way. This way. I'm going to show you the breath in a minute, but I'm just showing you what it looks like, right? But I have said to people, if it's easier to incorporate the tool, you can do it this way, or even these 2 fingers. Ate that. These 2 fingers this way. Okay. They're closer in range and they feel better to do. But technically, the technical way you do it is this way. So I just want to make sure I show y'all the appropriate studied way you do it versus like the way you do it this way, or again, 2 fingers here, back and forth. This is most comfortable, I think. These 2 fingers going back and forth. But there's this, or there's this, and that's the way people do it. All right. Now, the alternate nostril breathing is a breathwork technique that, like I said, will bring you immediate calm. So if you are in a position right now, and if you're driving, don't try this. If you're listening to me while you're getting ready for work or whatever, or you just stumbled upon this video somehow in the replay, if you are able to, then I would love for you to pause for a minute, stop for a minute, and try this. Okay. Now we're gonna close one side, and we're gonna go, and then we're gonna go in through that one side. Then we're gonna close the other side, and we're gonna go out through that side. Then we're gonna go in, close, out, in, close, out. I'm not doing it right now because I'm just showing you how the breath. Follow my fingers. So essentially, this is the function you're doing with your nose. Going back and forth, mouth closed, doing this because it's all through the nose. You're going back and forth. Again, finger placement is typically this. You can do this. You can do this. You can do this. All right, it's up to you. I'm gonna do this for the sake of me being the practitioner and the one that needs to do it correctly. So I'm gonna do this. But again, you can use these 2 fingers. You can use these 2 fingers. You can use these 2 fingers. The proper way is this way. I'm gonna do it this way. Okay, so again, I'm gonna go in through one side. I'm gonna close one side, in through one side, close the other side, then out through the other side. Breathe in again though before you close. Close, out, in, close, out, in, close, out. So I'm gonna do it so you hear how it sounds. Notice I may have some stuff, some boogies in there. Drop your shoulders. Relax. Loosen the fingers on your other hand. Loosen anywhere in the body that's tight. Drop your shoulders. And just breathe. In to the same side. Close. Out to the other side. Into that same side. Close. Out to the other side. Into the same side. Close. Out to the other side. Into that same side. Close. Out to the other side. Last round. Into that same side. Close. Out to that side. Okay, return to a regular pattern of breathing through both nostrils. And as you can feel it, I think that the thing that I love about breath work is it's not some type of feel it later thing. You can literally regulate yourself in the moment. It's not some type of like, okay, I tried yoga today, and like maybe I'll feel the effects of yoga next week if I keep doing it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not nagging on yoga. Do yoga, absolutely. I'm just saying, and even yoga and stretching, you'll be able to feel in the moment too. But the calm that you get immediately with breath work and that you have, you could do it anywhere, you could do it anytime, and you don't have to look weird, you don't have to look awkward, you don't have to feel weird. You can do it. Now, some of these techniques are a little harder at first when you start doing it. But once you really keep doing it, you feel it. You're like, even in this moment, like, oof, okay. And then you start noticing the tightness in your body. Like, drop your shoulders. We so many times throughout the day are bracing for impact and we don't know it because we're used to it. And you don't look weird. You bracing for impact. Either your fist is balled up because you're like in a tense conversation, but you're not realizing it. Face frowned up, tight. It's like relax everything. What would it look like to live a life where every day you're just relaxed? Every muscle, everywhere is able to relax, right? And that is the whole point of it. Is just your ability to just, hey, drop your shoulders, drop those cheekbones, like drop all that you're holding in your face, right? The breath work brings you that. So the technique that we just went over is called alternate nostril breathing. The technique that we just went over is called alternate nostril breathing. And it is a way to bring immediate calm to your body, anxiety, feelings of depression, feelings of just like being triggered by some external environmental thing. It's just brain fog, feeling confusion. Immediately try the alternate nostril breathing. You're going to feel it. Hopefully you just got a chance to try it with me. I want to give you your 3B brief for today because I'm going to try to run down news every time because I'm a news girly and I like to give you some things that are happening so you're aware. And I think for me, when it comes to news, yes, for what I do on Sirius XM, I'm reporting on politics, I'm reporting on business, things like that. But what I get to do on my own platforms is, and I get to do this on Sirius too, but I'm saying what I get to do on platforms like this when I'm live is I get to bring you neuro news. Actually, maybe I should call it that. The 3B brief. Okay, I got 5 minutes before my next interview comes. And so here we go. So I'm going to give you body, business, and belonging news. Check this out. All right. Neuro wellness is officially a thing. The Global Wellness Summit named nervous system regulation the #1 wellness trend of 2026. Now, The reason why I think this is important is because I don't know. I think on the 3B Society side, like I launched a whole new Instagram and I've landed into this like this side of the internet that is people doing all kinds of wellness things, and I love it. I'm like, and this is the cool thing about starting a new profile. Like starting a new profile and having to build up the following, it doesn't feel as great all the time because it's a lot of work. However, when you do start a new profile, you can actually start a new algorithm. And so everything I'm looking at now is like all kind of wellness things that people are doing all over. And I'm sharing them too. So by the way, follow the 3B Society on Instagram. The 3B Society. Somebody already had 3B Society, a woman in Australia. So I had to add the to it. So it's at the 3B Society on Instagram. And subscribe on YouTube. So on Instagram I'm reposting I'm reposting when people are all these wellness things I'm seeing. I'm going and reposting, I'm sharing on stories because I want more people to see it because some of it's super cool. Like people doing like floating sound baths, like people on in water. They're not in water literally, they're on like floats and they're floating on the water and somebody's doing the sound bath around them. I'm gonna do one of those, and I will let y'all know, and I will invite y'all to it because you should come. But also, my sound teacher, if you're in the DC area, she does them at the Salamander Resort. She's amazing. Her name is Natalie, and you should definitely go check her out. Space of Gratitude at Space of Gratitude on Instagram. But she does these floating sound baths at the Salamander Resort. And so nervous system wellness, I'm seeing it. Like you're gonna see, like y'all, I mean, I may be one of a few people that you've heard talk about breath work, but it's coming. Y'all gonna see people talking about this more and more. And in fact, if you watch the Mar Odom Untold story on Netflix, there is Phil Jackson, the coach from the Lakers. He they show him talking about breath work and how he and like work with his team to like center themselves using the breath. I'm gonna have to like snag that clip and post it on 3B Society because I think like people need to understand like this is not just some woo-woo random thing. No, this is about performance. Athletes use this. Marines use breath work, and it is available for you to use, and that's what I'm saying. So nervous system regulation is the number one and there's other ways. Breath work is just one way, and it's a quick way. But there's other ways to regulate your nervous system: sound healing, meditation, things like that. Nervous system regulation is the number one trend of 2026. Experts are calling it precision nervous system optimization. Why they got to call it that? Because they experts. We ain't got to call it that. That's too much. The ability to objectively measure and retrain stress and resilience patterns in real time. Well, when you say it like that, that sounds damn good. The ability to objectively measure and retrain stress and resilience patterns in real time. And that's literally the scientific way of what I just did with y'all, which is that the breathwork exercise that we just did, the alternate nostril breathing, and its ability to bring you regulation in the moment. And I think that's the difference in real time, like right away. And so, as one integrative medicine doctor put it, it's no longer a guessing game. This is a direct opening to talk about breath work as one of the most accessible tools in this space. No device required. Let's talk about business. The over optimization backlash. We're living in a modern well-being paradox. Health has never been so measurable. You got watches, you got rings, you got all kinds of patches. And never before has it felt so psychologically demanding. Okay, this is also coming from the Global Wellness Summit. Therapists are warning that data-driven wellness can tip from motivation into fixation. The fastest growing spaces in wellness are now prioritizing nervous system safety, emotional repair, and pleasure over metrics. This is a rich angle for entrepreneurs specifically. High performers burning out, chasing optimization in both health and business. So measuring it and trying to do something about the measurement is what people are doing, and it's actually could be driving more anxiety. One of the things I want to highlight here, though, is pleasure. Bringing pleasure into the conversation around nervous system regulation. Play, right? Play, pleasure. What does that look like? Healthy pleasure, and how that is also a part of regulating your nervous system. Number 3, belonging. So again, I cover body news, business news, belonging news, and every time I want to cover these 3. Belonging, the rise of connection driven wellness. We're seeing a massive cultural shift away from alcohol centered socializing toward connection driven wellness, spaces where health, culture, and community intersect. Many wellness routines have become increasingly solitary, people working out alone, practicing mindfulness alone, and then gathered in environments where the depth of conversation wasn't a priority. Well, research is showing social wellness reduces inflammation, increases longevity, and significantly improves mental health. This one speaks directly to what 3B is doing and why belonging isn't soft, it's science. I love that. So, ways to think about that. Check this out. So, social wellness, this is really interesting because we need to highlight this. The practices of wellness, in the past had become solitary. You work out, got on headphones, you're seemingly alone. Even if you're like with somebody else and you decide to go to the gym together, sometimes you're not even talking. You're you're working out alone in the space with a bunch of other people. Mindfulness, the idea of like being mindful, feels so individualized. So like solo, you have to be mindful alone. And then you would gather in environments where again, you're doing all this alone, but you're around other people. And now there's more social wellness coming about. Interesting. Social wellness reduces inflammation, increases longevity, and significantly improves mental health. Choose your tribe, find your tribe, choosing that social space. What does that look like for you? And then figuring out how you engage. Belonging isn't soft, it's a science. There's something to this whole belonging thing. And I'm so excited. Speaking of finding your tribe, my guest is here, Alice Hugh from the Woo Woo Company. And I'm going to read her bio and I'm going to bring her up. But definitely someone I found to be a great friend over time. We actually met during like doing business. So she had a e-commerce platform that she was operating. She was raising money in the venture realm and things like that. And we met in that realm of business. And then she moved to the space of understanding what's necessary in the world now. And I feel like there is a calling for all of us right now to move into the space of how do we serve through these 3 pieces: body, business, belonging. How do we integrate? How do we live an integrated life? And what does that look like? Here's a bit of her bio. Alice Hugh is a career and business astrologer who helps professionals and teams use astrology to gain career clarity, make smarter decisions, and anticipate what's next in work and business. With a background in marketing, she applies astrology to emerging cultural and consumer trends, future of work insights, and high impact team building. Through her website, Your Saturn Return, more than 20,000 people have received a free career astrology report. Coming to the stage, I'm excited to bring Alice. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you so
Morning.
much for having me. I'm excited for us to chat. Our conversations are always so great.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So, couple things. The pillar that you're here about is business. And before we jump into the pieces around astrology, let's talk a little bit about your business journey, right?
Oh,
And what that looked like for you. So, e-commerce platform to career astrologer to business astrologer. How? How, Sway? What do we do?
I
What
know
did that look like?
I think first and foremost, people are always surprised I'm an astrologer when they meet me. And, I first come across as someone who, is working corporate, doing something like more serious, maybe consulting. And, that was a lot of what I did when I worked a corporate job. So in my 20s, I worked in social media, I worked in marketing, I was overseas. And then I actually already had the inkling kind of like towards my like mid late 20s that I needed to make a career change. And that was ahead of something called a Saturn return that we all experience a couple times in our lives, late 20s, early 30s, mid to late 50s, mid to late 80s. And it is a time that is very much so a milestone of maturity, of discipline, of like it's funny to say it, but like moving into more of a adulthood. Because when you're like 30, you're like, well, like late 20s, early 30s, like, oh, I'm already an adult. But in those years, those 3 years, there's so many pivotal things that happen. And um, every single time there will be a career change or career clarity that comes through. And sometimes, people get married, they have kids during this time as well, because those are things that play into this person's evolution of self and what they're meant to be doing in this lifetime and how they're going to be contributing. And for me, that really was the push to move back to the United States, to do full-time entrepreneurship, to start that e-commerce company, and then to lead us to where we are today, me being an astrologer. And it's truly been a journey. It's very nonlinear. The creation of your own career path, just like your healing journey, is nonlinear. There's so many different things that one does. And I think that's something that I really had to come to terms with, thinking like, oh, if I do this, then I'll get that. But for me, I've just always been, even when I was working in a corporate career, dancing around entrepreneurship. And, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, I took that leap in doing it full time.
Yeah. I mean, when did you know? Because I think this is interesting. I think people like read, they look at charts, they have the apps, they do the things. When did you know that you were an astrologer? Like, what
Oh
was
my
the moment
gosh.
where you're like, I'm not just reading this thing, I'm not just getting these insights intuitively, matching it up to what I see in the planets. But like, when were you like, you know what? I'm an astrologer. Like, what was that journey or that moment like?
So I think it was probably around like 4.5, 5 years ago at this point. I had taken some classes with my friend Nikki Novo around like intuition, around like reading energy. And then she had this course to really hone in on your intuition, and it being like a psychic ability as well. I remember I was like in that pilot class, and I already had moved to California. I was living in the Bay Area, and we were just doing so many practices, so many readings on each other, whether it's like energy reading, whether it's like just like so many different things. And really, honestly, for the first time in my life, something just came really easily to me. I would go through the chakras, be like, oh, it's like this, it's like that. And like, mind you, like I had woo woo company as a business for about like a year or two. So I had facilitated some classes, but very much so I was still like organizing things, like being in the background. And taking that class was truly like a leap of faith and kind of like a progression, and knowing that, this business isn't just about me at that time hosting a lot of like events, and showcasing other people, but it was about me opening up my gifts. And so really it was during that time I was like, oh, I think I've done this before. And like looking at I had looked at my chart, but you see something new about your chart and other people's chart every single time you open it up, right? And like hindsight's 2020, because I later on, like I looked at my chart, I'm like, oh yeah, this is something that I have done in another lifetimes, and this is something that I can do in this lifetime as well. So it's to me, honestly, even though it's been many years, it's still a surprising thing to me, to be associated with this identity. I think as a first generation Chinese American, I still grapple with some of the beliefs around like, this isn't the job that I should have, right? This isn't the path that my family had for me. This honestly really wasn't the path that I had for myself. At this age, I thought I'd be like a managing director, of like a PR agency, like something of the sort. Or if anything, if I was going to start a business, I would start one that, was around marketing, around PR, around like branding or consulting. But, my soul and the universe had God had other plans for me.
1000%. I love that. So, and I love that. I love answering the call because I'm all about that. Let's talk about about astrology and how it ties to career and business. I think some people in their knowledge of astrology is just like, oh yeah, I get my horoscope from some random app every day. Or it's like, and then some people are in depth where they like look at their charts. they don't know how to activate them. That's me, by the way. I'm like, when I said some people, I meant me. I look at my chart and I'm like, yeah, see that in the eighth planet house. But like, what does that actually mean for me? I have no idea. And which I think is so powerful about what you're doing. How does your chart and we're talking about birth chart, astrological chart. There's also, we're using these words, but like what people know, what chart means, what is a chart? And then like, how does that actually connect to your everyday life or to who you are, who you become, or past lives from what I heard you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good question. So, a birth chart is basically just a snapshot of where the planets and the luminaries were at your time of birth. And this snapshot gives you kind of like a blueprint of opportunities and challenges, and kind of like a roadmap of the hero's journey for yourself, which happens many times, many cycles in your lifetime. And can also tell you about major life milestones. I like to say that it is like a roadmap, it's a blueprint. You choose your own adventure, you have free will. A lot of times, not lately, but I have had, clients who like come to me and they're just like, this is like my first reading. I've never done anything like this before. I'm really, really nervous. I'm really scared to hear like what it has to say, because ultimately, a lot of people, they're just like, I don't want to hear that I'm completely on the wrong path. And no one ever is, because to a certain degree, we all are very connected to our intuition. And if you're coming to me already, you have reconciled like in your own mind that there's a change that is coming, or, something that you want to change and pivot. And this birth chart can give you a lot of insights about all areas of your life. I particularly like to focus on career and business. And it's really not one thing that kind of gives you, the download, the insights of like what you're meant to be doing, or, when is a good time to get a promotion, or when is it a good time to start a business, or what type of business that you can start. It's really looking at the chart, reading the chart holistically. And I not only, read someone's like birth chart from like, oh, your sun is in this, your Mercury is in that, but it's also very, very intuitive. Things come through in a way that I'm just like, oh, like, well, I don't really see this. I don't see this in the chart, but I feel it. Do you work in this way? Or, is your business partner like that? And so when we're looking at someone's birth chart and giving them career insights, it can really tell you a lot of different things around the various career paths that you can take, the best ways to make money, your special gifts and talents. Like there's so many different things. And also like the types of businesses that you can start. And then your business also has a birth chart too, that allows you to understand like, who do I need to be so the business can be successful? And if the business was a person, what would they be like? What is it like as I interact with my business every day? And thinking about it, interaction of like, oh, if this was like a person, a co-founder that I'm working with. Because when you birth a business, just like when you birth a child, which I've heard, I don't have any children, this is what I've heard, is like, they do their own thing. They have their own ways of like growing and becoming what they're meant to become, right? And I've really seen this in my business as well. It's like, I did not want to be front and center. I didn't want to be doing this. And then it was like, you should start this website. I was like, I just started readings. I'm not going to make this website. I'm not even feeling very confident in my ability to do readings. It's early on. Like yes, you feel confident, but you need those reps, to kind of like really reinforce and affirm. My intuition was like, you should really do this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't. So that is what a career and a business birth chart are.
I appreciate that. And I think kudos to you for feeling it and then not fighting it, but for so long, and then honoring it, because it's showing you exactly where it's at. I also want to know that you're speaking to like intuition and the chart as well. So I think people don't realize that like you have there's study that comes with doing some things, but you already have intuition. Like it's already in you. Like we all have it. It's not just significant to one person or the other person. And people just don't tap into it or get grounded enough to like really trust it. But you're getting these inclinations all the time of like what to do, what not to do, which way to go, which way not to go. And then we have tools to add to that, I think it makes it even more strong. What kind of things in the chart are, or what kind of, if you can give any descriptions of this, because it's like, okay, in the chart, got it, but like, how, like, what does that mean? So like, okay, so is it like, and I know, so a chart is broken into like houses and little
It's
dots on a curve.
planets,
Okay.
planets,
I'm
it's
like,
signs, it's houses. And you
okay.
know, this is exactly why I created my website, yoursaturn.com, because it gives you a really easy to understand like translation of your birth chart. So the first page is like a couple different paragraphs that I wrote around like, who are you? You know, like what are some of the challenges and struggles and gifts that you have? And what are you meant to be doing in this lifetime? And then the second page has like all of like your placements, like your sun is in like Leo, your moon is in like Gemini, written out. And then there's like the birth chart that everybody sees, like, oh my gosh, it's so confusing, like the circle with all the dots you said, like the planets and stuff like that. And so when we're looking at a birth chart, I know that it's very daunting and confusing when you're first looking at, and that's why like I created the free career astrology report generator. But you can think about the planets as what is happening. So in the like the planet Mercury is about communications, about thinking, processing, and then the planet, what is happening. The sign is how it's happening. So let's say that your Mercury is in Gemini. So the way that you process, you think, you express is like you have tons of ideas. You love to talk, you love to express, communicating via like writing, via speaking, like always very, very curious about like taking in information. This is probably a person that asks a lot of questions, very inquisitive. And then when we're looking at the house, this is like where it's all happening. So let's say you have it, Mercury in Gemini in the 8th house. You love the esoteric. You love like data points. You love going to places that feel like uncomfortable for people. You're a truth teller. So you probably know a lot of things around like healing modalities, around like let's say like how to like analyze data, like consulting work, that type of stuff. But also like you just know and see a lot around like what is the truth, the actual truth. So I actually think like, you know, Scorpios and Aquarius is like they are ones that are very in tune to the conspiracy theories and the truth under the conspiracy, right? Just like every joke has a little bit of truth, every conspiracy theory probably has a little bit of truth as well. So, you know, planets, what is happening? The sign is like how it's happening, and the house is where it all happens.
I love that. And thank you so much for breaking it down, because I be super confused. So, but so thank you. That is so clear. And I've never heard anybody break it down that clear. So you can understand that. So I love it. The planet is what is happening. The sign is how it's happening. And the house is where it's happening. Also makes sense for the house. Immediately I was like, I'm gonna remember that part, because house, that's where. I love that. So I'm curious if you can give us some insight. Well, first, let me say this, yoursaturn.com. So make sure you go and check her out and go and actually get your own chart. Sign up. There's the newsletters, things like that. Make sure you stay in the know. Now, Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I've interviewed a couple times, who's all about, you know, he's an astrophysicist, all these things. But he's like, I'm asking him about astrology, and he believes it is total.
I know.
Yeah, he's like, no. He's like, the planets do not care about us. He's like, how vain of us to care, to think that the planets are aligned around us or we're aligned around them. I disagree. I think that I also think like, you know, and this might be me, and I don't know, you said Aquarius are apt to conspiracy theories, so hey, here we go. But the ashes to ashes, dust to dust part of us, I think, is tied to planetary materials. That is my thought. Again, you said Aquarius conspiracy theory, but that is how I think about it. But for those who are skeptics, or who question like those realities, do you ever even address it? Like, or do you just go, or is it something that do you have a like a theme that you say to people? Like, I'm curious.
This was a big fear that I had as I was becoming more comfortable with this new identity, this new chapter that was emerging for me, especially when I was running this business in Washington, D.C., hosting events there. I was just like, this is really weird. 2019, my God, like so weird. I remember hosting like, meditation classes, like a CBD yoga. It was like people were like, whoa, wild, like, a CBD topicals, like, brand coming in and like doing like, testings and gifting and like, I had a girl come in and do Akashic records. Like people were just like, their minds were like blown. They're just like, oh my gosh, this is just so crazy to have something like this in Washington, D.C. But I had such like a fear, but people really loved it. And even today, like, I think it was only really about like 2 years ago, maybe 2.5, 3 years ago, that I really was just like, I'm okay with like people coming to me and being like, I don't believe this, but honestly, Omi, like I haven't really ever had people be rude, because I think we're in this new period of time. Pre-COVID, I think someone could really be an asshole about it and be like, this is not real, like blah, 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 blah. And this actually did happen. I'm recalling now. I think it was pre-COVID, or maybe it was just a little bit after, because I did a workshop for my school, Boston University, around like how to use astrology for career clarity. And I didn't get any messages like during the workshop, but BU, like the organizers, they were like, yeah, we had a lot of alumni messages being like, we can't believe that BU is aligning itself to like astrology. And I remember them telling me, they're just like, it was a lot of older people, and I was like, I was like, it was just old white men. They're like, like yeah, because ultimately these things are very rooted in culture. It's very rooted in culture. So if anything, like you could say that, but I've never really had people, even when I do corporate workshops, I do corporate workshops for a lot of tech companies, marketing companies, small and big, like, organizations. Sometimes I'll have someone be like, oh, I don't really believe in astrology. And I'm not trying to make them a believer. That is not
Right.
my job. You should never try to make anybody a believer in really anything. They have to really come to you, be curious. And at the end of workshops, I've people always tell me like, I wasn't really sure about this when I came in, but it's actually quite interesting. And the things that you said to me, I do like going to like, the opera. I do really love arts and culture like that. It's something that is really close to my heart, or like, yeah, people kind of connect the dots. And ultimately astrology is a system around pattern matching. And I think that it tells you about what is already present. It's about reading the energy. And no, I've never really gotten people who are really rude. And I think that in today's age, in this moment in time, how you react to something that is new, that is foreign, that you do not subscribe to, tells me a lot about who you are, and reveals to everyone around them who they are as a person, their morals, their ethics, how they approach conflict. And that's all you got to know about that person, how, what they say about things that they do not believe in.
Interesting. I actually really liked it. And I feel like there's a thread to pull there that maybe not for this show, but like we should unpack that at some point, because I 100% agree with you. And I think what we're all trying to figure out is who we are. You know what I mean? So like you're trying to figure it out. A person's trying to figure it out within themselves, but then everybody you encounter, you're trying to figure that out. You know what I mean? It's like that's just the reality of living, and that is from childhood and on. Like I don't care if it's your doctor. Like, who are you? How should I trust you? You know what I mean? Like the whole time, that is really just a part of human nature, is trying to figure that out. And so, in listening to people talk about things they believe in and talk about things they don't believe in, the way that they react to that, I think, is such a key point to understanding like exactly who they are, and deciding like if that's your tribe. And I started this out saying find your tribe and what that looks like. All right, so I want to jump into, before we have to go, because we got like 5 minutes left, but I want to jump into a little bit about what you're seeing. All right, I know you and I talked about doing a more full predictions moment, which I still want to bring to life. But since I have you here, I'd be remiss to not ask an astrologer what's going to happen in this next couple of months because it's crazy right now.
I know.
So, so
So the first like quarter of the year I know was a wild time. Like the first quarter felt like it was an entire year. There was a lot of shedding, there was a lot of clarity and processing, there's a lot of like letting go because of eclipse season, which brings a lot of change and transformation. It was very activating for Leo's, Aquarius, and Virgo placements. So if you have any of those signs in your big three, or even if you just don't know anything about astrology, but it's your sun sign, like I know that it was very, very intense. Um, the intensity is really not going to go away this year. There's a lot of chatter this year, unusual chatter around the fire horse year. Like literally everyone was talking about the fire horse year, and you know, the fire horse is truly, a combination of different characteristics that really embody Aries energy. So it's a fast moving year that brings about a lot of change and momentum, but you really have to have clarity and really mental strength, that fortitude to understand this is where I want to go. And I'm okay going in this direction. You can't be doubting yourself. You can't be wishy-washy. You can take time to process and to understand, but it's almost like you have to choose a direction and you can't be procrastinating. And this month of April really amplifies this energy. If you are an Aries, if you have any Aries placements, and that means like you relate to someone who starts a lot of projects, but maybe not always finish them, or changes their mind of like, I like this and then I like something else. Someone who's very creative, who's very bold, very passionate, very direct. Very much so people see Aries as a leader, as it is like the first sign of the zodiac. But we have a lot of different things happening this month, that is, especially this week, that is going to push you to want to take action. It is going to force you to not be able to self-sabotage or to wait any longer of like, I should do this, I should make this decision, or I should start my business, or should I do this, should I not do this? And so the best way for you to take advantage of this month in particular is to take action, because with action comes clarity. We always kind of forget. We're like, oh, we're going to get all the information like analysis paralysis, right? And so it's about taking small steps every single day to get a little bit more clarity, to get one step closer to kind of achieving your dream, achieving your career. A watch out is also with this energy that's like can bring a lot of like speed and momentum, is for you to be careful around like, your own energy, how you process frustration, how you process anger, because, with all many planets moving into Aries, and we are in Aries season, it can cause people to react impulsively, for you to be angrier at first and just be like, what's happening? Like kind of, like that impulsive energy to just like knee jerk reaction of replying to someone or being like, oh, why did that get that reaction? But it's important to ground, to pause, because there's so much swirling energy, so much like just naturally, just like it's like we're being like kind of just like moved down the path, like just like a river flowing, or you're like on like, a canoe or a floaty, and you're just like being pushed down, and you're just like, I want to pause. You're like, no, we're actually just moving. We're continuing to move. And so having that clarity of like where you want to move, and even if it's just a feeling, like I want to feel expansive, I want to feel curious, I want to feel fulfilled or loved or seen, whatever it may be, that's enough.
that's enough is a word in itself. Knowing that whatever you're feeling is enough, seeking clarity and being mindful of being so reactionary, and kind of cluing into to yourself, like self-reflecting on like, oh, that did make me a little more angry than I normally would get. What is that about? I think the self-awareness is paramount. I had a friend that would always say that. So anything you want to leave us with, anything you have coming up, anything we should keep in mind?
Oh, I have a couple workshops coming up. So next Friday, April 17th, which is also the new moon in Aries, I have two workshops, live and virtual, about how to create your portfolio career. I did a free workshop last week. People really loved it. So we're going to do a deep dive, a part two. So if you want to understand how to diversify your income streams, how to get ahead of the, changing like work landscape, how to career pivot, come to the workshop. You can find more info by messaging me on Instagram at woo or if you get your free career astrology report, you can just reply back to the email that you'll get with your report, and I'll send you more info.
I love that. Do you do one-on-one readings, or is it
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. I do one-on-one readings as well. I do astrology for team building. So, those are my main areas of focus right now. The one-on-one readings, the corporate team building stuff, as well as like workshops to, really support people this year. Like I've been doing this work for like many years now, but this year and last year truly have been those like pivotal like change moments where people are just like, I think I'm just going to leave my job entirely to start a business or to, move into an entirely different like industry. And people are much more willing and open to seeking counsel from
Mm.
non-traditional places. Like more than ever, people are super interested in astrology because when there are no answers, when we do not know the path forward, when there is uncertainty, modalities like astrology can be very, very helpful in you allowing to feel safe and seen. And I do believe that when we feel safe and seen and free to be ourselves, we can act from a place of strength. And from a place of strength, we can really manifest the reality that we want. And so you can really do anything.
That was a perfect way to end. Thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you, Alice. We'll see you soon.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
All right. That was so good. I love that. I think that the what we're coming to understand is that we have abilities available to us and practitioners available to us to help us navigate some of the things in life where people told us that where we seemingly didn't know how to navigate or didn't have people available to us. And that is really what I want to bring you with the 3B Society community, with the 3B Society ecosystem, is like bring you into this, opening up your world to knowing that whatever decision you're out there you're trying to make, whatever thing you're grappling with, whatever way you're trying to get clarity, there is someone and there is room and there is space for you to be guided to figuring it out. And that is literally why I started this body, business, and belonging integrated into one. The 3B Society is a community for the ambitious and the curious. People juggling more than most, tired of feeling tired, and done buying into hustle culture as the answer. Your nervous system can be regulated, and you were told you had to choose between ambition and rest, between success and the body, between building something and belonging somewhere. And I'm saying no. You can live an integrated life, the free life that you desire, and how you engage will determine how you continue to live. And so there's people out here willing to help you get clear. There are practitioners, there are therapists, there are coaches, there, and I'm trying to bring people the best that I know for you to be able to chat with. So thank you so much. I appreciate y'all. Actually, let me think. Do I have another interview tomorrow? Because if not, I will see y'all on Friday. Yeah, so tomorrow we won't be here. Actually, I'll see y'all on Saturday morning. So Saturday morning, I have an interview with Nicole Sane, and she's great too. So I'm excited to bring you what she's going to talk about belonging. And the name of her company is Transcend Wellness. And again, my goal is we bring y'all different people for you to engage with. So I have somebody on Saturday, I have somebody on Sunday. So I'll be back. Actually, Sunday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Love. But no, and then we have a doctor coming there. Yo, this is gonna be dope. We got some dope folks coming through. So if you want to make sure you miss a lot, don't miss a moment. You miss a moment, you miss a lot. So make sure you're following at the 3B Society I didn't have a banner ready for that. See? Oh, yes, I do. Bam. Here we go. At the 3B Society on IG, omibell.com. Also, if you go to on YouTube, it's 3B Society. TikTok is 3B Society. So y'all make sure you're following. You can follow me, DM me at omibell. You can text me 202-918-4483. 202-918-4483. I gotta get my banners ready next time so y'all can see them. But I appreciate y'all. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest.